The devastating power of George Foreman is something of a legend.
To be heavyweight champion of the world, as soon as it happens to you, it's like John L. Sullivan, Braddock, all the Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Mohammed. It's like they all just pour right into you, and you feel that moment. You feel, I am the heavyweight champion of the world.
George was now a celebrity, and the couple was besieged by reporters.
It's that those guys weren't Tony Tubbs and guys like that. It was Joe Frazier and Kenny Norton.
Yes.
Frazier had split two fights with Ali.
Disappeared from the public consciousness.
During a 10-year break from boxing, George Foreman contemplated what Ali had taken from him.
One of the beautiful things that he did is he acknowledged the ability of Muhammad Ali and acknowledged that loss and put a shrine up in his home.
This is the proof that I was in the fight with him. Punched me around the eye.
I started to not only be happy about my life, but be happy about the life I'd lived before and put them together and become an evangelist.
14 years ago, Foreman retired from boxing to preach the word of God.
The little fame and fortune we get is not going to follow us in the grave, brother, sister.
He would find his peace in his faith, serving as a minister for the next 10 years.
During that 10-year absence, at any time, did you have the desire to come back?
10 years, I didn't even shadow box.
He became a terrific father.
You've got 5 sons, 5 daughters. I know you're very proud of all of them.
They're all named George.
I named all my sons George Edward Foreman.
In 1984, he had started the George Foreman Youth and Community Center.
He opened his own youth center, emptying his entire savings to do so.
Giving money for scholarships for kids to go to school. I had to keep that up.
He would hold fundraisers to keep the center going, but as his money ran out, George was in danger of losing it all.
The youth center started to take every dime I could get. It started costing everything to get a foundation, lawyer fees, building. I wanted to go out and do myself, and I ran out of money, and that's the reason I even got myself back in the boxing.
13 years after losing his title, George Foreman began the seemingly impossible task of regaining it.
I said, I got to go back into boxing. I asked my wife, I said, what do you think? She said, they're going to kill you. Don't do it.
You look, you're 300 pounds, you're too old, you'll never be champion of the world, because they thought I wanted it overnight. But I looked in the mirror and said, you know, they're telling the truth. I'm pretty old here.
Tomorrow night, veteran boxer George Foreman will put on the gloves and climb back into the ring after almost a decade in retirement.
But I'm going to start from the bottom. I know how to promote. I know how to recreate. I know how to get myself back in shape.
Just as unceremoniously as he had retired, he returned, fighting no-name opponents and journeymen.
So I came back. I got a scale. I was 315.
The ropes, right. I think how he wants to quit. That's it.
And then when people started to take him seriously because they were tantalized by a charming, fat old heavyweight, I just swooned at their gullibility.
George was viewed as a joke, held up, cash-grabbing on his past accomplishments.
Well, George Foreman wins on a TKO. It is his 8th straight wins.
An aging, overweight has-been.
They laughed at me. And people wrote me from all over the world, George, don't do it.
Trying to recapture that glory.
But the one thing they all had in common who would write me, there wasn't a dime in the mail.
Carefully and...
Foreman, the 39-year-old ex-champ.
As his competition rose, opponents were dead set on proving the old man was finished.
Likes a jolly fat man.
Well, one thing people love about him, you saw right there, the highest knockout percentage in the history of all heavyweight champions. Part of George Foreman's odyssey in this comeback, up and down the scale. Thus seems like yesterday's weigh-in.
Yes, his first return fight, he weighed 267. Here he is 3 years later, 263. You've heard of the diet formula, what is it, Slim Fast? I think George has developed Slim Slow.
It doesn't appear like George is hitting hard, but once he hits the guy, he totally paralyzes his opponents.
Boom, perfect timing.
Rodriguez goes down.
When Michael Moorer defeated Holyfield to become the new champion, George Foreman, at age 45, would get one final shot.
I knew what Teddy told me, like, he's a big con. And I just look at him like, go get me a sandwich and sit down. Man, you're so fake.
Featuring the clown king of the sport, the larger-than-life George Foreman.
Well, there are a lot of skeptics out there who think that George now is more King Khan than King Kong. But George hasn't earned this championship shot as a fighter. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and on that inauspicious occasion, he lost to Tommy Morrison.
With the fighter he's fighting, he's going to have to punch and try to club him and just keep beating him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you see no chance that George can win the fight?
Very little.
Very little.
Foreman looked to become the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. But despite the optimism of the crowd, few gave Foreman more than a puncher's chance.
Middle-aged men don't knock out 25-year-old heavyweight champions.
He would be the oldest to win the heavyweight title by a huge margin over Walker, who was 37 when he beat Ezzard Charles.
I always thought if the George Foreman from the Rumble in the Jungle had the brain of the George Foreman who fought Michael Moore, that's the greatest fighter ever.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I'm the boss man in here. Take hands to lunch.
George, how are you going to find
The vibrations are against him, the planets are against him, and already he done lost the first 5 rounds.
But it's revealing that he chose to wear the same trunks on this night that he had worn in the jungle 20 years before.
George Foreman in the shorts he wore that night in Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle, when he lost his world heavyweight title.
I told you, I'm the champion of the world.
But he always saw the ghost of Muhammad Ali. And
everybody has felt all along that you're always chasing the ghost of Ali. Does this make you
George 20 years after being beaten by Ali, Big George Foreman recaptured the heavyweight championship, the oldest champion in the history of boxing.
I'm not the greatest, but I'm the hungriest. And those guys were younger, stronger, faster, more sophisticated. But the one thing they lacked, and I had, was good old hunger.